Today we're going to look at again at the AM tools, that series of webinars, particularly today for viewing and reporting the data that we have a connection to in AM tools. The different data sources, we can view, search, sort, filter, and report the databases, the records in both our local GIS data, our local GeoSync GO workflow databases, the cloud workflow databases. We can also see lists of our GeoSync GO layers that have been generated, both those included, even a list of those included in our project on our local machine, the GeoSync GO layers that have been exported from ArcView. Those again would be on our local machine, and we can see those that are published to the cloud, the GeoSync GO layers. And as I mentioned, we can look at not only the list of databases, but the tables and records included in those databases. So to give you an example, we'll actually look at the AM Tools app. First off, what you see in the app, as far as your databases and records, are those specific databases that are stored either locally on your machine or in the account that you specified when you logged in, when you authorized the app. So you'll want to, if you have multiple accounts, which you'll just want to make sure you're signed into the account that you want to see the databases for. The first place we'll look is the data sources. The data sources are everything from, we have local databases. Again, those are the local copy of the workflow database that you're using for GeoSync GO. In particular, this is important if you are using QGIS, Quantum GIS. This is a very critical piece. But have a local copy of your workflow database that matches up to the one that's in the cloud. So let's look at our local databases. The first thing you'll want to do when you go to this tab is select the workflow database that you want to view. So in this case, we're selecting our internal MapSync workflow. And when I select it, I may have to refresh. If you don't see the tables or the database tables show up, you can just hit refresh, and you'll get a list of the actual tables in that database. Again, these might be groupings of features or records. So let's look first at the list. If I select one of my workflows, again, this is a table in this main database. If I can select building permits. From here, I may want to see some of the records in that database, or the records, or in this case would be the features. I can select split view. Then if I select the table, I can see the records or the features that are in that database. These records can be sorted. If I want to, say, sort these building permits by type of permit, I click the header permit, and it will sort forward or backward, whichever. And any header will do that. So we can sort it by any of the fields that you have in your workflow. Now, another thing we can do, we may want to, again, these were the databases, our workflow databases, copy on our local machine. So if we want to view the workflow databases in the cloud, hosted in the cloud, we would go to our workflow database tab. Again, if you need to, if the list does not show up, you click the refresh button, it'll go out and it'll check. Now again, in this case, this is all of the workflow databases for this account that we're tied to. So it's showing us all of the databases. And again, basically this is a list of all the databases in the cloud for that account. So you see a list of those. You can actually, again, as we do the local database, we can do a split view and select a workflow and get our list. We can, as we did before, we can actually sort by our field type or our attribute field. And here, another thing we can do is that here you can actually edit records. If we want to edit an individual record or feature, all I have to do is double click on that record. First time it takes a second. Brings up the edit screen. This is a very similar edit screen that you'll see in GeoSync GO Desktop. It may look familiar to some of you. From here, you simply go and change the information that you want. Click Save and Close, and it saves it. If you wanted to delete the record, simply click Delete. At this point, I'm not going to change these, so I'll just cancel. We can also, there's an export, if you wanted to export a shapefile. That's really not part of this this webinar, but this is also where you could export a shapefile for that feature or for that workflow. Another list we can get is our published layers. I don't have layers published at the moment for this project, so we don't see any. But if you would actually publish a GeoSync GO layer, actually published it to the cloud, you would see it here. We can look at our GeoSync GO. If we click on the ArcGIS XML export, these are layers, GeoSync GO XML layers, just the standard GeoSync GO layers that have been exported from ArcGIS. In this case, we're actually looking at the default folder export layer from ArcMap. So it's a generic, it's not specific to a project or an account. Well, it basically actually in this case, it's not even to an account. If I've gone into Arc and exported layers to the default location, this is a list of those layers. And here as well, you can actually split the view, select a it might take a minute. Select a table or a layer in this case, and it will give you the records or the features in that layer. And as before, you can actually select the headers to sort these. And if you need, you've always hit the refresh button if you don't see the list that you expect for some reason. The other tools here we won't cover in this because it's more publishing data, not viewing. So the next tab we have is the XML Project Folder. This is a list of the GeoSync GO XML layers that are in the current project that I have selected. So in this case, my building inspection project for my account has one layer in it. If I select, let's see, custom workflow, refresh, nothing in there, so. But the idea is these are layers, GeoSync GO XML layers that already exist for this project that we have selected. And as before, you do have the split view. You can select your layer and get a list of the records or features for that. And as before, with all of these lists, they are sortable by selecting the heading. Next, we'll go to a different grouping. We'll look at a different tool. We'll look at the dashboard. The dashboard is a more detailed, a more robust data viewer. It's a window into all your databases. There's searching, there's exporting, printing, reports. There's a lot more, or not a lot more, there's more you can do here. So it's a different connection, but a little more detail. So the first thing you would do here when you go to the dashboard is select the type of database you want to view. We have GIS layers, Those are your local workflow databases. The workflows, that's your actual workflow that's in the cloud. You have your XML export, that's XML layers that were exported for GeoSync Go, standard GeoSync Go layers, and then cloud layers. These are the GIS reference layers, if you will, that have been that are hosted in the cloud. If you just push out a layer from GeoSync Go or from ArcGIS to use as a reference layer, it's not a workflow, but it's a reference layer database. So in this case, what I'm going to select is the workflows. I'm going to refresh there just to clean everything up. So the first thing we'll notice when we select the type, there's a list of the workflow databases. In this case, the workflows that are actually in the cloud. We can select a database from the list. When you do that, you actually get a list on the left of the records in that database. So you can view information about, and in this case, it's all of the records that are there. They're available. They've been created. We can split the view, and in this case, when you split the view, we've already got a view of the records, the individual records. And at this point, the split view displays the images that are linked to the individual record of the feature. You notice here at the bottom, we have a image, a JPEG that's been entered. If I select on, and all of the images are linked will be listed in this box. You select on an image and it will display on the side for you. We can also print if you will, I'm going to print the select, and then once it says you will print the selected record. So right at the moment I have one record selected. I go to my print selected. Takes a moment for it to pull the data in. And we have the option of a generic report, which is available as a default. It's always there that you're doing generic. Or if you've created specific custom workflow reports, those will be listed here as well. In this case, I'll just show you the generic report. You have the option of giving a two-piece title. In this case, it's MapsynC Village Building Permits, CDP Engineers Remodel. I can look at the report. We could actually go and select the fields that we want to have displayed or not in that. In this case, I don't really want all the indexes and the coordinates and all that stuff, so we'll just use basic information. So basically, you can turn things off. You may want that. Go back to report. This is what I'll get, including a photo. I'll do a preview. There's my generic report with a photo. You can also export the records. Oh, when we go back to the printing, if I had selected all three of these records when I went to print, it would print one of those reports for each of those records. So, the export is simply you click export, you can export a shape file, another GeoSync Go XML layer, or a CSV for a spreadsheet. Another thing we can do in here, we can actually filter or search and or filter or a filtered search for items in the database. In this case, I am going to select my, let's see, code enforcement. Say I want to search for records in my code enforcement. The first thing, code enforcement workflow, the first thing I'll pick is the field that I want to search on. In this case, I'm going to use address. Next, I'll put the value I'm searching for. I'll look for Blazer. We'll think on Blazer Parkway. Next, I'll pick my operator. In this case, I'm not sure that whoever entered the information entered it correctly, and I actually want all of the addresses on Blazor, so I'll just put part off, put Blazor, and search for anything that contains Blazor in the address field. This big triangle is my filter button. That's my go button. Activate. So it searched the database. Now it gives me a list of only those code enforcement issues on Blazor Parkway. You have some options and to get rid of it, to stop this or remove the filter. You select this button, which is clear filter. You do have some options in this. One is to, instead of using it contains in a kind of a wildcard search, we can actually search for a specific record in that field. So this address, if you click the drop down, you get a list of all the records in that table or in that feature class, if you will. So I'll search for Blazor Parkway and just do equal. Search. It found that specific record in the database. Excuse me. Another option you have is to actually build an expression. So I'll go back to my Blazor Parkway search. Contains, we'll do a search. I got to clear it first. We'll search for anything that contains Blazor in the address. So now I can actually add that to an expression that I want to keep. And I may want to now go back and search for inspector. Inspector, and we'll say inspected by CDP. Actually, that one I'd probably look equal, so because we know our inspectors. So everything's selected by CDP. Add that to my inspector. Excuse me. Okay, let me go back. Sorry, I cleared that. Things, we'll add that. So I can change these and add multiple expressions or multiple complex search. In this case, I'm searching for any place that CDP inspected an address. Oops. All right, start over. Address on Blazor Parkway contains Blazor Parkway. We'll add that to our query, or to our expression. And now we want our inspector was inspected by CDP. We'll add that. So I'm building a multi-line expression here. So I now hit my search. So here are all the inspections, my code enforcement inspections that were performed by CDP inspector on anything on Blazor Parkway. Okay, another option here. Let's clear. Expression. There we go. Clear my section. So another another thing we can do on our let's try this time. Let's use our building permits database. Yeah, let's try that. Okay, we can actually use the reporter tool. Basically what this does is it lets you summarize a database based on the criteria that you have. So if I use this, I can go to my setup until I'm using my building permits layer. I want to group this on permit type, and I want to aggregate or summarize, add up my total fees. Total fees. So the fees that we charge for our building permits. You have the option of summarizing, basically adding this up. You can average, minimum, maximum, and something like. You can have a default number, or you can actually have it displayed in miles or acres if you need to. if you need that. So once I've selected, I already have my database selected, I've selected how I want to group these, and you can do multiple groupings. Say, well, all the building permit types, and with certain other criteria, you can group things together as you add them into these other drop downs, and then you select a field that you want to add up. So I click Make Report. If I go to Grid, there is my grid. So here are the permit types, the new permits. I have a total fee, if I total up all of those, of $3,450. It's actually, and then it does also automatically adds a count. So we've had 2 permits, new permits, and the total this amount. You know, I'm doing good. And as far as our remodels, we've had 1 remodel with a total, or a fee total of $300. So it's kind of a report. And then you can actually export this to a CSV if you want to use it. Say this is a very large, complicated report. We want to build a CSV to do other work with. We can actually export that. So that concludes, and that is actually all of or mostly viewing, reporting, and viewing and reporting functions available in GeoSync GO AM tools. And thank you very much for joining us today.